Okay, so now it's time to go ahead and open up our pasty. So I'm going back into File, Browsing Bridge. Got my JPEG here. I can control click and do open with Photoshop. So exactly the same thing that we did with trying to get rid of the background, except if you look at this, we definitely don't want all of this here. So the first thing we can do is quite happily click on the crop tool, and we can drag down the top and crop out that, crop out that, crop out that, crop out that. You need to click the tick to accept the changes. So there we go. We've now got a mostly cut out pasty. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and we'll try this time using the Magic Wand tool. So if you click and hold on the quick selection tool, you see that two tools are here. Select Magic Wand tool, and I'm going to click on the white. So you can see it's done a pretty good job of selecting the pixels I wanted it to. So I'm now going to hold down the Shift key, which gives me a little plus on the wand tool, and click in the corner there, which selects that. You notice there's a few other little bits here. And the way I'm going to select those is I'm going to go to the selection tool here, and then I'm going to hold down the Shift key before I click. Very important I do that. I get a little plus to say it's going to add to the selection. I'm going to click and drag over the bits that I need to select, and that will select those as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and double click on my lock, call it pasty, click on OK, and now that I've unlocked the layer, I can press the backspace key or the delete key, and I will get rid of most of my background. So I now do Command D to deselect. The only thing that is kind of ruining it a little bit is this shadow down here. I'm going to click on the zoom tool, and we're going to click and drag and zoom in so we can see that. Whoop, better. Hold down the space bar. There we go. So we need to get rid of this here. Now I'm not actually going to do that with any of the Magic Wand or quick selection tools. Well, in fact on this we're going to mask it out by creating a layer mask. So down the bottom here is an add layer mask. You click on there. You can see I've got a little white square come up next to my pasty there. You need to go ahead and choose a paintbrush tool, and notice that I've got options up here on size and opacity and stuff like you would expect. And down here I've got my foreground and background colours are black and white, and I can click on this little arrow here and change the foreground and background backwards and forwards. So if I start off with white and I click the brush and then drag over the shadow, absolutely nothing happens. Okay, if I switch them and choose black and click and drag, can you see how that is erasing the shadow? Okay, so I can erase the shadow. The great news is if I get a bit enthusiastic and erase some of the pasty, all I need to do is swatch the colours over again to white, and I can paint in the pasty again. It's a bit like magic. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, switch back. I'm just going to go ahead and very carefully paint out all the grey. I'm going to get a slightly bigger brush for a minute to help me. Just going to click and drag. Nothing too bad. No matter if you've got a little bit of a shadow there. Okay. Right, having done that, good. May as well go File and Save. Save that's pasty PSD. Click on OK. Pull down the tab. Remember to switch back to the Move tool. Click and drag the pasty into our main scene, like so. Pasty on the head of a seagull. So we can move the pasty. The pasty is obviously very, very big. I mean, we could have a massive pasty like that, or we could do Edit, Transform Scale. Now I've got a scaling box around here. The trick to keeping this in proportion and not warping it is to click and hold and start dragging, and you can see I can distort it. But if while I'm clicking and dragging and holding the mouse down, I also hold down the Shift key, that will enable me to scale it in proportion like so. So I'll go to about that. I'm going to let go of the Shift key. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to let go of the mouse, then let go of the Shift key. Sorry about that. And then I'm going to simply drag my pasty where I want it to be. And if I wanted to, I could go to Edit, Transform and Rotate, and go onto a corner and rotate and move it to something like that. Once I'm happy, I click on the tick, go to File, go to Save. Okay, the final thing to come in was our speech bubble. So File, Import, oh sorry, File Open, got that wrong. There we've got cartoon speech bubble, click on Open. It's automatically transparent in the background, so that's good. We can just click and drag it down, click and drag it across, Edit, Transform, Scale, click and drag and hold down the Shift key, let go of the Shift key, let go of the mouse even, then the Shift key, and we can move the speech bubble to here. Click the tick to say yes, that's good. Now, the only problem here is that a speech bubble is in front of the gull, and I could do with it being behind the gull. So that is related over here to the stacking order of my layers. One thing I've forgotten to do is rename this speech bubble, so I can double click on the wording and I can put in speech bubble. Press return. And if I drag the speech bubble down in the order below the gull, then you'll see it'll neatly go behind. So final thing, set it off nicely, will be some text in here. I'm going to click on the text tool, T for text. Up here now we will get different options. So I could choose a different font, something like, what would a gull choose? What about, let's go really theatrical here and go Rosewood Standard. Once I've chosen my text, I can click and the text tool creates its own layer. I can type in lots of tasty things in Cornwall. Notice I'm not worrying about the fact that it's really small, because once I've typed it in, I'm going to click and drag and select it, and then I can simply choose a higher font here, bigger font I should say, or I can click and drag on the T. Okay, I can then click on after tasty perhaps, bringing things, oops, press return, that brings it down a line, click there, press return, that brings that down a line, and then we've got, just put an exclamation mark in there, we've got our text. I can change the colour if I want. I can even choose from the background of my picture. So if I choose pasty coloured text like that, trouble is it doesn't show up very well on the white, so we're going to select that. What about the colour of the sea? Much better. Click off, there we go. Click the tick to say yes, that's okay. And then pretty much that's our work done. If you did make a mistake and you wanted to go back to an earlier time, there's a window history option. And if I drag that down, you can see before I saved it last, I can actually go back to any point that I want to. In fact, that's going all the way back to the beginning, so I can just click around and decide where I want to go to. I'll put it there because I'm fairly happy with that result. So we've now got that saved as a PSD. If we wanted to put it on a blog or something like that, we may well want to go File, Save for Web. We can see that it's in here, which will save it by default as a GIF. Size 1024767. I might want to make that a little bit smaller, say 800. I can click on Save, Final GIF into, well, let's put that on the desktop. Save. There it is over here now on my desktop. If I double click on there, it opens up a picture viewer and there's my finished result. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and found it useful, and I look forward to being back with you soon with another one.